Hello Nintendo fans, welcome to Cube3's video mock-up on how The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker might just run on the Wii U. Now Nintendo announced the game back in January as a full HD remake for the Wii U, but so far we don't have any clues, any visual ideas as to how it might work on the Gamepad. So we've decided to create a mock-up using GameCube footage and our own designs on the Gamepad to show you just how the game might work when Nintendo releases it on the Wii U. Please bear in mind all the footage that you see here today is unofficial and fan-made, so it's probably nothing like the final version, the official version. So let's give it a go. Okay, let's start with Gamepad movement. Now if you take on a more traditional approach, you may use the analog sticks for running in camera. You'd have your L trigger for your shield and sword. You'd also assign A to your regular actions like rolling, backflipping, pushing those big blocks, and B would be your sword. So everything would be pretty much like you had it on the GameCube. But what about the stylus? Now Nintendo introduced this in Phantom Hourglass, and this is something that we could bring to Wind Waker Wii U. Now your stylus could be used for movement, for sword play, and for things like rolling and so on. Your analog stick for camera, items assigned to the D-pad like so, or the face buttons if you're left-handed. You'd also have your shield and L targeting on either side. So that's how touch setup might work. So if we give it a go, like so, Link runs, he rolls, flick again to roll again. Okay, so let's try sword play. Now it might work like this. If you just tap the screen like so, he whips out his sword, then taps a couple of slashes. And then if we hold the L button like this, and then flick, and flick again, Link would do his infamous jump attack. Now, if you're left-handed, you just swap the stylus over, and the face buttons become your items, and the right analog stick as your camera. So we can run like so. Okay, so the analog stick camera would just be a free camera, so we can just twirl it around like this and have a bigger picture. So that's how stylus movement might work if you're playing on the Gamepad. Okay, so what about Wii Remote Nunchuck? Now hopefully Nintendo won't neglect Wii Remote for future Zelda games, because it added a new layer of immersion when Nintendo released Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword on the Wii. Your Wii Remote was your sword, your Nunchuck was your shield, and it really made sense. But going back to the Gamepad, a more traditional way of controlling Link, it might be a bit tricky to have Wii Remote. But if Nintendo used preset motions like Twilight Princess, they may be able to incorporate Wii Remote and Nunchuck. Okay, so let's give it a little go. So we can run with our Nunchuck like so. A would be your roll. You can then jump from side to side, whip out your sword, give it a few slashes like so. And it would pretty much handle just like Twilight Princess on the Wii. Okay, so what about your items? Now Link's got a huge catalogue of items in Wind Waker. You've got your bow and arrow, your boomerang, your bombs, but you've also got things like the Tinkle Tuner, the spoils bag, your Picto camera, and your sail, and so on. So there might be two ways of selecting items. Now the first would be a bit like this. You tap on your item, then you assign it to a button like this, and then tap the button again to use. So very much how you might be used to in previous Zelda games. But how about an instant way of selecting items? Now it's a bit tricky because if you're in the middle of a battle, say a big boss battle, it may be inconvenient to keep looking down at the Gamepad, but it could be interesting to use. So if you just tap the bow like that, Link whips out his bow, so there's no assigning. Let's try the boomerang like that. so everything is pretty much tap to use. What about the Wii Remote? Now, you wouldn't want to put the Wii Remote down to use the gamepad to select items, so the best way is probably to have an on-screen display like this. So your items would be on the main ring, and you'd have your essential items in the middle. So if we select the bow like that, we can assign it to one of the D-pad buttons and then tap it again to use like this. So it'd pretty much be the way that it was on the on Twilight Princess. Okay, so what about the Wii Remote as your Wind Waker? So you'd be able to whip out the Wind Waker like so, and then use different motions to control it, just as if you were Link. So let's give it a go. Whoop, like that. It's a bit of a novelty, but it could work. Then you select your direction, and Kazano Tacto. Away you go. Okay, so for aiming with the gamepad, you might keep Link in third person on the TV, and then use the gamepad in first person like so. So you get more precise aiming by moving the gamepad around. It's not for everyone, motion control, but it could be interesting to see how it might work in Wind Waker. Okay, so what about aiming with the stylus? Now you might be able to use items in a similar way. So let's see, if we select the grappling hook. Now Link goes into first person on the bottom, so we can move him across like this. So we use it as your little aiming tool, and then tap to use, and voila. So here's a few other examples on how the gamepad could be used. You could have Tingle your Tingle tuner displayed on the bottom screen. So instead of having to use your 3DS or something, you could actually have Tingle running on the screen. Maybe you could also have it using as a letter flinger. So you would swipe your fingers in the letter sorting minigame like so. You could also maybe have it in the battle slip. Sploosh! Make it a bit more fun. Maybe Nintendo could throw in a few mini games. Yeah. Okay, so that brings us to the end of our video. Thank you very much for watching. If you've got any ideas or suggestions or want to contribute, please visit us at www.cubepoo.com, and please subscribe for the latest Nintendo videos. Thanks for watching. See you next time.